I only know one spell.
I know two spells: Expelliarmus and Expecto Patronum, and they both begin with E's.
Exactly.
Exactly. And so, uh,
Make sure you're sharing it. We've got it on audio. We got it on video from Facebook and YouTube and all that. Check it out. Share it with people that you love. And let's get into this.
all right, let's do it. All right.
Here's the order of the bros.
Here's the order of bros. So we start off, as I'm sure we all remember, Harry just had one of the worst years, if not currently the worst year of his life.
It's gonna
So
get
his
better.
summer is, it's been bleak.
Mhm.
He's been hanging out with the Dursleys.
Of course, it would be bleak if you're with them.
Yeah. But unfortunately, he hasn't heard from like any of his friends. Like he mails them things, but he hasn't heard back from anybody. And he's like, okay, cool. That's just another thing to chalk on to the misery counter. And so one day he's
Like have
Yeah.
that like running like
Yeah. not to never mind. Like have like just like throughout the thing, just so yeah, that's another one for the misery counter. And so one day he's hanging outside in like the sunflower bush outside outside the Dursley's house. He's just sitting in there, and he's listening to the news. And then they see him, and they pull him inside. Like, what are you doing, boy? And he's like listening to the news. And they're like, oh, but why? And he goes, well, it changes every day. This is Harry's always been sassy, but like it really starts now.
Well, he's a teenager.
Yes, but he's also a teenager who he's been through some stuff, and so he just doesn't really care anymore.
Yeah.
And he's just feeling a lot more like angrier lately.
Yeah.
Which I mean, a lot more angrier. He's been feeling a lot angrier lately.
No, a lot more angrier.
I mean, in his case, yes. And so then, like, he's hanging around. He's just doing whatever. And the Dursleys are like, "We hate you. You suck." And he goes, "Cool. I hate you. You guys suck." And so then one day he's going for a walk, and then the Dudley and his bros show up, and they're like, "Oi, what you doing, mate?" And they're like, "Here's like, please leave me alone." And they're like, "Oh, you whine about your boyfriend Cedric. You you always cry about him in your sleep. Oh, Cedric this." And like Harry, of course, he's not okay with that. He's like, "Shut up. Do not talk about that. Do not mention his name. You don't know what I went through. Just don't." And they're like, "Oh, Cedric's your boyfriend." Oh. And then Harry, like, he pulls out his wand, and Dudley's like, What you gonna do?" And then all of a sudden the world starts getting no, everything starts getting really cold, because like it's been like a record hot summer, but all of a sudden everything gets cold, and they're like, "That's weird." And so Dudley's friends are like, "All right, well, we're gonna peace out, so whatever." And Harry's like, "This is weird. We should go home. Like, let's leave." Uh, and so Dudley's like, "Okay, whatever." And so they start going back, and it just gets colder and colder, and they just feel miserable. And then
Dementors?
all of a sudden, around the corner, Harry sees a Dementor. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, dude, we gotta go." And Dudley's like, "What are you talking about?" Because Muggles can't see Dementors. And so Harry's like, "We gotta go. We gotta leave now. We gotta go." And so like they're running, but then all of a sudden a huge pack of Dementors swarm them. And then Harry, he's like, "I know I'm not supposed to do magic outside of school, but this is a life or death situation. I'm gonna do it." So he uses a Patronus to get them off Dudley. But of course, like they've attacked Dudley a little bit, so he's a little messed up.
Yeah.
And so he brings him back to the house, and uh they bring him back, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what'd you do to our son?" He's like, "I didn't do anything to him. I saved him, if anything."
Yeah.
They're like, "Get away from him." They're like, "Oh, Dudley, who did this to you?" And he's like, you feel like he's gonna throw up, and he's like, "Harry," bleh," and then he throws up before he can finish his sentence. And they're like, "Get out of our house, get out." And so he leaves, and as he's walking, their next door neighbor, who used to babysit him a lot,
Yeah.
she comes out, and she goes, "Oh, Harry, come on in." And so he goes in, and he goes, "Hey, Mrs. Prattfoot." As far as I can remember, her name is now Mrs. Prattfoot. And so, what?
Nothing.
What?
No, Bratfoot. That's all you can come up with. That's her name. That's
her name is Mrs. Prattfoot. And so he goes in there, and she's got like 1,000 cats. She's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry to, I can't believe that there were Dementors here." And Harry's like, "What? How do you know? How do you know about the Dementors?" And she goes, "Well, I could see them." And he's like, "You what?"
Bruh.
And she's like, "Well, I'm a squib, which means you were born of magical family, but you yourself do not have magic."
Okay, but you can see.
Yeah, so it's like you can it's like you don't have magic, but you are like you can still like see and do all these things.
Okay.
Um, as far as I can remember. And another squib that we know is Filch, the caretaker of Hogwarts.
Oh,
Or like
yeah,
the
yeah.
janitor of
Ground,
Hogwarts.
yeah,
Yeah,
like,
the
yeah.
caretaker of Hogwarts. And so just a fun fact. And so she's like, she's like, keep an eye out, like she's like, I get why you did, but they're after you. Like they don't want to hear you talk about you know who. And you're like Voldemort. She's like, please don't say his name. He's like, I don't care. I'm gonna say his
Just
name.
like that. She was
She's
very
please don't
melodic.
say his name. Um, she's like, but they're probably gonna send you a letter. Keep an eye out, and just she's like, but don't worry. Like I'm here for you. Dumbledore asked me to keep an eye on you. And he goes, what? You heard from Dumbledore? She's like, yeah. He asked me to keep an eye on you. He's like, well, is there any way I can get in contact with him? She's like, no.
No. Mm.
And so uh Harry's sitting, and then all of a sudden he gets a letter from the ministry, and it says, due to the fact that you used a Patronus spell in the presence of a muggle, you have hereby been expelled from Hogwarts. Expect some ministry officials to come and collect your wand to break it.
Mm.
Because if you get expelled from Hogwarts, they will break your wand.
Mm.
Unless you get an exception. Like, for example, as we learn now, Newt Scamander was an exception to that, thanks to Dumbledore. And so Harry's like freaking out. He's like, this sucks. So he's just like, I guess I'm just he's like, you know what? A life already is like the worst. You know what? Let Voldemort find me. Let him kill me. Whatever. At this point, whatever. And then he's sleeping in his room, and he hears knock 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 on his door. He opens it, and who is it? It's the real Mad Eye Moody. He's like, oh, this is weird seeing you. Understand that I have conflicted feelings. And Mad Eye's like, I understand.
Bro.
Bro. And he was
He was
like,
like,
no, it's and then there's this pink-haired girl.
Mhm.
And she's like, oh, what's up? I'm cool. Harry's like, okay, I'll take your word for it. And then there's this like tall black guy there, and Harry's like, who are you? And he's like, oh, my name's Kingsley, and I'm really cool. Harry's like, okay. Seems legit. And they're like, hey, we're here to get you to a safe place, and you are not going to lose your wand. You are not going, no, that's not gonna happen. Harry's like, oh, you're gonna let me keep my wand? And they're like, well, you gotta go to court first, but we're gonna help you as best as we can. um and so they're like, all right, come with us. Where's your broom? He's like, well, everything's locked in the cupboard downstairs in my old room. And they're like, I'm sorry, you're what? He's like, don't worry about it. So they get all his stuff, they give him his broom, and they're like, all right, we're gonna fly. And so they fly through London, and then they end up at this weird old apartment place.
Yeah.
And they're like, here's like, what's here? And he's like, oh, it's a little secret entrance. And Mad Eye does his little funky dance. Little whoop whoop.
Little funky dance.
Little funky dance. And then
while the other two are like humming and like,
they're like,
yeah.
back up, and Harry's like, should I be watching this?
He's like, do I need to join?
And he's like, no, you'll throw off the vibe. You'll throw off the vibe.
It's like when like the gyms fuse.
And so then this new like a new gate appears, a new apartment appears, and they're like, all right, let's go in. And Harry's like, oh, okay. So and the pink hair girl, she's like, oh, by the way, my name's Tonks, and I'm really like, as I said before, I'm really cool. And Harry's like, okay. And she's like, watch this. And like she changes her hair, and Harry's like, oh, how'd you do that? And she goes, well, I'm an anamorph, and I'm an anamorphous, which means it's a person who's born with the ability to like change their physical appearance. And so like she's like, I want a different hair color. She can just change her hair.
Yeah.
She wants a different nose. She can change her nose. It's cool stuff. And so they go in, and Harry's like, okay, this is weird. This is weird. Everything's creepy and old. And there's this old house elf, and he's like, he's like, what's your problem, dude? I don't even know who you are.
Like, no one's ever given me a sock.
No one's given me a sock, but I don't want a sock. I don't want the sock. Harry's like, okay. And so then he looks through a door, and he sees all these people he knows. He sees Molly Weasley. He sees Arthur Weasley. He sees Sirius Black, and Sirius sees him, and he's like, oh, hey. But then Molly's like, no. She's like, oh, Harry, it's so great to see you. Why don't you go wait upstairs with like Ron and all them? And he's like, what? They're here? And she's like, yeah, go upstairs. He's like, why does no one tell me anything? This year could also be known as the year of why does no one tell me anything? And so he goes upstairs, they're all hanging out, and he sees them, and he's like, he's mad. He's like, I wrote to you guys every day, and they're like, well, Dumbledore told us not to tell you anything. They told us not to talk to you. And he's like, why would he tell them that? Like, I don't know, but I don't know. And he's like, I'm so like mad, angry all the time, and like none of you understand how I feel. None of you get it. I feel like Voldemort's in my head. And he's like, none of you get it. And Jenny's like, calm down. Here's like, because it's like it's like she's like a totally new person now,
Yeah.
and she's like, I am the only one who would understand how you feel. I am the only one who like who gets it. As far as I can remember, we'll put a pin in that conversation. And so he's like, okay, that's weird. And she's like, you watch your mouth. Don't talk smack.
Yeah.
Here's
She
like,
projected the 7 foot tall version.
yeah, like she's he's like, oh. And so they're hanging out, and then Arthur Weasley comes and he goes, hey, we're gonna go to your trial, and I can't go in there with you, but I'll be there to morally support you. And it's like, okay, cool. So they go to the ministry, they go into the trial, and so Harry goes in and he's explaining the situation, and Fudge is like, I don't want to hear any of it, like whatever. And but then one of these people is like, she's like, oh, my daughter Susan Bones. I know that like you know her. And Harry's like, yeah, I know her. She's cool. And so she's like, is it true that you like formed a fully formed Patronus, like a full corporeal Patronus? And he's like, yeah. And they're like, dude, you're 15. He's like, yeah. And they're like, that's like really impressive.
I only know one spell.
I know 2 spells, Expelliarmus and Expecto Patronum, and they both begin with E's.
Exactly.
Exactly. And so then all of a sudden, Foosh Dumbledore comes in and he goes, look, you guys are on, like, he's like, Fudge, you, I'm talking to you. He's like, the only reason you don't want to let him back in is because you just want to silence him. He's like, the law clearly states that what he did is acceptable. He saved, like, it was a life or death situation. Had he not done it, both he and his cousin would have had their soul sucked out by Dementors. This is ridiculous. He should not be expelled, and you know it. And so they put it to a vote, and everyone's like, yeah, no, this is dumb. Let the boy back into school. Plus, he's the main character. Let him back into school.
Yeah.
And so he gets let back into school. They return to Grimmauld Place, which is the apartment.
So did they explain why the Dementors are out and about later? Okay.
And so
we're going back to the place.
yeah, so they go back there, and they all get their letters for Hogwarts, and like, oh, by the way, there's a new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, and they're like, yay.
Yeah.
And they're like, there's also going to be some security. There might be some like, she's like, there's might be some security measures and stuff. Don't worry about it. And they're like, okay. And so, but then Hermione and Ron, in their letters, they get told, hey, by the way, you guys are the new Gryffindor prefects.
Oh, hey.
And then Ron's like, what? And Fred and George are like, no, because all the Weasleys, except for Fred and George, have been prefect. And so they were like, no, Ron, you let us down. We've lost another, because they're like, oh no, you're responsible. That means you're like a goody two shoes. And Ron's like, I didn't want this. And Ron looks at Harry and he goes, I would have assumed they would have given it to you. And Harry's like, I don't know, I don't care. I don't really want it. And Ron's like, well, I don't want it either. And Hermione's like, no, this is a huge responsibility, Ron. You should be so proud. And of course, Fred and George are like sobbing in the background. And then, knows that there's actually, it's not super important to the story, but I think it's a thing to mention, is that there's a boggart in Grimmauld Place, and Molly Weasley's trying to take care of it, but every time she tries to like get rid of it, it turns into another dead body of one of the kids. So it's like her worst fear is like losing like any of the kids.
Molly? Okay.
It's very sad, but then like they take care of it, but it's I just think that's a detail worth mentioning. Anyway, so then they go back to Hogwarts, and people are like looking at Harry weird. They're like, he just wants attention, like, oh, like getting the tournament wasn't enough for you, blah blah blah. And Harry's like, I hate everyone and everything. I want to die. I want to kill everybody. I hate this. I want to get everyone. And so then Dumbledore introduces the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. And her name is Dolores Umbridge. And Mama Umbridge. Mama's a love hand. No girls. No girls.
Your 3 words.
Rule number 1. No boys. Unless they're cute.
Rule number 2.
No alcohol. Unless there's plenty to go around. And rule number 3. No parties. Unless Umbridge is invited. She's like, no, but seriously, if you break any of these rules, I will kill you. And they're like, and Dumbledore's like, all right, well, that was a weird introduction, but thank you. And so they go through the class. So they go to her class, and she's like, we're gonna be learning like this is the book we're gonna be using," and it's like a book for like kindergartners. And
Yeah.
Hermione's like, we're kind of like well past this magic. I don't know if you were caught up on our curriculum, but we are well past this." And she's like, "Well, I think that those magics are dangerous, and we're just gonna stick to the basics." And Harry's like, but there are people out there literally trying to kill us. What is your problem?" And she goes, "Mr. Potter, that's 10 points from Gryffindor. Don't speak up." And he's like, "Oh, so you're one of those people." um, and then they're also freaking out because like they're trying to figure out because they in your fifth year you take this big test. It's called the Outstanding Wizarding Levels Test, the OWL exam,
Hmm.
and you take it to start taking the upper level class, and it also helps you start to like choose your like career path.
Yeah.
And so all the teachers like they meet with them, and, they're meeting with them, and Harry's like not looking forward to that. He's like, I'll worry about that later. I
Hmm.
don't know what I want to do with my life. I don't even know if I'm gonna live past this year, so I don't really care right now. And so uh you know uh we Harry's like he keeps trying to like talk to Dumbledore because he's like Dumbledore has to know what's going on, but anytime he tries, Dumbledore totally shuts him out, ignores him completely, acts like he's not even there.
Yeah.
And this is just driving Harry up the wall.
Yeah.
And he keeps having this weird dream about like this like orb.
Mhm.
It's like these whispers. And like he's freaking out, and he keeps having just like these weird like night terrors. He just feels so weird all the time.
Yeah.
And so at one point he's just feeling kind of down on himself. And so he's hanging out in the woods, and he runs into a girl that he met up on his way to school, like in a carriage. And her name is Luna Lovegood. And
Mhm.
he realizes like, oh, there's these horses, which he also noticed were the ones that because before they always there's like these carriages because your first year you take the boats to the school, second year up you take these carriages up,
Yeah.
and everyone always thought they pulled themselves. But then this past time, Harry realized, oh, there's this like black like bat like horse, like skeletal horse that's pulling
Yeah.
it, and he goes, "Hey, do you guys see that?" And they're like, "No." Uh, and so then, uh, So as he's walking, he runs into Luna and these horses, and he goes, "Oh wait, you can see them?" And she goes, "Yeah, they're called thestrals. You can only see them after you've witnessed and like remembered someone dying.
Mm.
Because if it was just witnessed, then Harry would have been able to see it the whole time because he would have seen his mother get killed.
Yeah.
But you have to like, remember it."
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's like, "I was a really young girl, but my mother, she liked to experiment, and one of her experiments went wrong, and she died, and I saw it. So I've
Uh,
always been able to see the thestrals." And Harry's like, "That's messed up," and she's like, "I got therapy. I'm okay." Okay, Harry's like, "Oh, it's good." Um, and so he's like, "I just feel like, they kind of bond over that. Where he's like, "You're weird, but like in a good way." And she's like, "Cool, thanks." Uh,
bro.
yeah, thanks, bro. And he's like, "Oh, mhm, mhm,
Like,
mhm. Can see dead things."
bro.
Interesting. Uh, so then as the year goes on, just Professor Umbridge is just she's like trying to rat out and like get all these other teachers fired, trying to take away privileges and just like totally hammering down on the school. She's putting
Mhm.
all these rules into place because she's also like the new like she's there as a teacher, but also as like a ministry official. So she
Yeah.
can set all these rules she wants. And eventually Hermione's like, "This is impossible. We're learning nothing in this class." And you're saying like Voldemort, he like you feel him growing stronger. Like we have to do something.
But secretly, Harry's been learning a lot just by reading like the kindergarten book because he
Yeah, he's actually learned quite a lot. He's like, "Oh, everything makes sense now." Um,
because he's actually like it's on his level. He's like,
oh, I
oh,
get.
okay.
But then like he reads that, and then like in the dead of night, he's also like he's like gone up, and now he's reading like beyond school year level books. Like he's like, "Oh, I see everything." And so Hermione's like, "Look, Harry, you would be a great teacher. Form a club with us." And Harry's like, "No." And they're like, "Just do it." And so like after some arm wrestling, they finally convince him to do it. And they're like, so they get a bunch of people to sign this document, and the document is hexed so that way if anyone ever rats them out, it's like they'll get marked. Like
Mm.
like the word like traitor will appear on their head.
Oh wow.
Like
Didn't know that.
because Hermione's not messing around.
Yeah.
She's like, "No, this is secret. If anyone rats us out because we're breaking all the rules now," she's like, "then like you will be known."
Yeah.
And so they form this secret group, and while they're trying to find a place to like study, Ginny's like, "What about the Chamber of Secrets?" And Harry's like, "I'd rather not." um, and then Neville comes across this room that magically appears when you desperately need it, called the Room of Requirement.
Hmm.
And so they end up going in there, and it forms perfectly to like this big open room where they can practice and all this stuff. And so Harry's
Yeah.
teaching them all these spells and this and that. And while they're doing all this, it's like, ooh, Cho's like, hey Harry, and he's like, oh hey girl, what's up?
Joe
Shay.
Chang.
And so then Christmas time comes, and Harry, he has a dream about Arthur Weasley getting attacked, and
Mm.
so he tells them, he's like, hey look, this is what's happening. So they take him to Dumbledore. He tells them what happened, and Dumbledore, he's like, okay cool. He's telling all these people like, okay, to go do this, go do that, go do this. And Harry's like, why won't you look at me? And then Dumbledore's like,
Bro.
like Dumbledore doesn't say anything, but then Snape comes, and then he's like, we need to get Snape. And so then he's like, Snape's like, all right, Dumbledore has tasked me with teaching you legitimates, which is the power of basically reading someone else's minds, but it's not just like reading their thoughts, it's like like reading their memories and everything.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to teach Harry how to like resist it.
Yeah, protect his mind.
Exactly. And so he's like, whenever you get back from Christmas break, then we're gonna start these lessons. And so they go on Christmas break. They go to the magical hospital called St. Mungo's, and to go see Arthur. And he's like, "Oh, Harry, thank you so much." And they're like all the Weasleys are like, "Dude, like you saved our father's life." And Harry's like, "Please, I don't want this. Like, I don't give me this. Like, just like please, just leave me out of it."
I just want to be a normal boy.
He really does, and he's just so miserable. But then all of a sudden, they hear a familiar voice, and it's Neville. And they're like, "Neville, what are you doing here?" And he goes, "Oh, I always come here, to see if these are my parents." And you see his parents, and they are shells. Like they're like just kind of messing around. He's there with his grandmother, and they're looking, and like they're just kind of like totally out of it, and they're like
not even there, just like
it's like
mentally
they're just like gone.
Yeah.
But then like she like the mom, she's eating this candy, and she takes this wrapper, and she like hands it to him, and she's like, oh, like the grandmother's like, oh please Neville, just throw out the trash, and like throws it out. And then Neville reaches back in, takes it, and he goes, thanks mom. And then he's like, as a reminder, it had been mentioned before by someone else, but Neville's parents, and Neville reveals this to Harry as well, is that his parents were tortured by Bellatrix Lestrange. And she tortured them until they were just gone.
Yeah.
So in the movies they make it sound like they died, but
yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, but it's just easier that way. But no, like they were, like they're just, they might as well be dead, but they're out of it. But he goes and visits them, and he like apparently like holds on to every little wrapper his mom gives him. Like he holds on to them.
Yeah,
it's very sweet, very sad. And Harry's like, oh, this, feelings. And so then he's talking to Sirius, and he goes, I just feel angry all the time, and I don't know what's wrong with me. And he's like, it's like, it's okay, like you're gonna get through this, you're not a bad person.
Yeah.
And so then they're all hanging up in the room, and Harry has another outburst where he's like, none of you guys get how I'm feeling. I think Voldemort might be like possessing me. And Jenny's like, hey, remember how I told you to can it? She's like, well, can it again. She's like, I am the only one who's actually been possessed by Voldemort. And Harry goes, oh, that's right, you were possessed by Voldemort. She's like, yeah, I was, so watch your mouth. She's like, no, I'm the only person in the world who would know how you feel. And she's like, do you have blackouts? Do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? And Harry's like, no. And she goes, then you're not possessed. Something else is going on, but you're not possessed. And Harry kind of has this newfound respect for her. He's like, huh, okay. That's right, you did go through something traumatic as well. And so they go back to Hogwarts. They're still teaching, and then like he and Cho, they're kind of and like they have a kiss, they have a little kiss, and they're like, ooh. And Ron's like, how was it? And it's like, she was crying. So it was wet. It was kind of gross. She was crying because we were talking about Cedric.
Why bro kissing her? Why talking?
She kissed him.
That's weird.
Well, it's like she was into both of them.
Red flag.
Don't trust me.
Red flag.
And so then comes like, so like they're one day like they're talking. Sarah's like, I don't really know like what we are, like we're together, but like I don't really know. We haven't like put a label on it. And so she's like, oh, Hogsmeade, they're doing this cool like in the Three Broomsticks, they're doing this cool like Valentine's Day thing. And he's like, okay. She's like, it'll be like really cool. And he's like, okay. She's like, do you want to go? And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'd love to. because like he's like, oh, I'm going on my first date, and so they go to Hogsmeade and they go sit down, and it's all like really pink and gaudy, and he's like, I'm uncomfortable. This is not my element.
I like it dark and broody.
And so she's like, oh hey, this is she's like, that's so nice, she's like, I can't imagine what it was like with Cedric, and he goes, look, I'd rather not talk about that night. It wasn't great for me. I don't want to talk about it. And she goes, well, I need to talk about it. He's like, but I don't want to. It was traumatic for me. And she's like, well, I need to talk about it. I thought you would understand that. And he goes, well, I can't talk about it. And then Hermione comes in. She goes, hey, Harry, we need to talk to you. And she goes, and Cho's like, oh. And Harry's like, oh, thank God. And out, and out. And Cho's like, fine, go. She's like, fine, I bet you'd rather her be your girlfriend. Harry's like, okay, I think we're done here. All feelings for you are gone.
This is about as awkward as that episode of The Office where they go over to Michael's house.
Pretty much, yeah. And so they leave, and Hermione's like, I'm sorry to interrupt your date. And Harry's like, don't apologize. Don't apologize.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I owe you my
And
life.
he's like, it's just weird because she's the only girl who ever showed interest in me. And Hermione's like, what? And yeah, your mom's like, dude, are you kidding me? And he was like, what are you talking about? Like, dude, Ginny's been in love with you since like day one. And Harry's like, wait, what? And they're like, yeah.
Yeah, when she was 7 foot tall, did you not hear that heavy breathing?
and Harry's like, wait, what? And Hermione's like, yeah, like I told her to, but like, yeah, she's super into you, but I told her to like chill out and like just be herself and date other dudes. Cause like, yeah, she's been dating other guys. She's gone through like 3 boyfriends at this point, like just in this year alone, cause Ginny's awesome. She's like, I don't like you anymore. I love Ginny. And Harry's like, huh, I didn't know that. They're like, yeah, dude. And so then they go have a meeting, and then also like, and then they're talking about like, okay, what are we gonna do for the class, plan lessons, all that stuff. And so then one day Hagrid's like, hey, I need to talk to you 3. And they're like, okay. And he goes, so he takes him into the forest, and he goes, this is my half brother Grop. I found him related through my mother, and he's like a full giant.
Yeah.
And like he's like, he's a little not all there because he's a giant, and they just kind of, the brains are a little different, but he is a good kid.
Yeah. Kind soul.
Exactly. And so he introduces them, and they befriend him, and he like really takes a liking to Hermione because she's at first she's like, she's stern with him, but then she realizes like, be gentle with him, and they bond, and it's very sweet.
Yeah.
And then one day they're having a Lester, they're talking, and meanwhile, Fred and George, with the money Harry gave them from the tournament, they've been able to create their own line of like prank sweets. So they're like, oh, there's this one, it'll get you sick but like it'll only make you sick for an hour, so it's a perfect excuse to get out of class. like like stuff like that. And they're like, oh, this one, it'll make you float for like 5 minutes, or this, like like things like that.
Yeah.
And so like they're building their brand, and so like they're peddling it on to everybody, and like at the Gryffindor common room at like free for all, they're like, oh, have some, and they're like, we want to make this like a full business.
The first taste is free.
Yeah, the first taste free. After that, it's a lot of money. And Ron's like, do I have to pay? And they're like, don't. And so yeah, they're doing that, and so there's that fun part. And then, but meanwhile, like Harry, he's still having all these weird like visions and nightmares, and he's still going to these lessons with Snape. And then one day Snape is like, you're just like your father, you're lazy, you're not trying. And Harry's like, stop talking crap about my dad. And Snape's like, you didn't know your dad, but I did. And then so like Snape tries to go into Harry's mind for another round, and then but Harry he reflects it, so he goes into Snape's mind, and he sees these memories of his father. It's James Potter, Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew, because they were a little merry band. And they see him like bullying Snape. They're like, oh, hello, Snivellus. And then he's like hiding in a tree, and they're like, so what are you doing, man? Like, what are you doing up there? And then all of a sudden, and they're in their 5th year at this point in this memory. And all of a sudden, Lily, Harry's mother, comes up, and she's like, James, stop, leave him alone. Like, he didn't do anything to you. And he goes, all right, fine, I'll leave him alone, but go on a date with me. And she goes, I hate you, I'm never going on a date with you. And he's like, okay, fine, like whatever. And then she's like, just put him down. And Snape, defensive and embarrassed, he's like, I don't need help from a mudblood like her. And she's like, because like he was already like starting to hang out with like these like Bellatrix and like some of these other Death Eater people.
Yeah.
Um, and and Harry's and so she's like, I'm done. Like, fine,
Yeah.
get out of this on your own. And then James is like, whoa, hey, Lily, like, wait, like, they leave Snape,
Yeah.
like they get Snape down, and he goes to be like, hey, I'm sorry he called you that, whatever. Um, and so then it flash forwards to another memory where Snape is like waiting outside the Gryffindor common room. It's like just
Mhm.
waiting outside the portrait, and Lily's like, she comes out, she's like, Snape, go away, like, go back to your room. He's like, no, you please, I'm so sorry. And she's like, no, like I people have already been weird about me still being friends with you because of the group you hang out with. Like, you know that they hate people like me, but you still hang out with them.
Yeah.
And she's like, and you call me like, no, like you're done. We're like, I'm not your friend anymore. Please leave me alone. Um,
Mm.
and yeah, so and then Harry comes back out, and Snape's like, it's an awkward moment because like Harry, like, because he saw his father as this like, not perfect, but like this incredible person.
Yeah.
Because that's
Because he didn't know anything
exactly, and
about
those are
him.
the only stories he ever heard about his parents. Were that they were these great people.
Yeah.
And so he's
He's like, bruh.
yeah, he's like, this sucks. And then he's thinking like, my mom like hated him. And Snape's like, get out of my office, I don't want to see you. And Harry's like, that's fair. I'm sorry about that.
Sorry, bruh.
And so then he calls up like in like the fireplace FaceTime chat. He calls up he talks to Sirius and Remus. And he's like, he tells them what happened, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I remember that day." They're like, "Snape sucks," and he's like, "Dude, that wasn't cool." And they're like, "Yeah, no, Harry, we were 15, we were awful people." And he's like, "Did my mom even love him?" And they're like, "Yeah, she did. I mean, not at first. I mean, but like by the time the 7th year, James matured, he'd calmed down, and like
He wasn't a bully.
he wasn't a bully anymore. Like he was a good, like he became a good guy." And they
Yeah.
started going out their 7th year. They fell in love and they got married and they had you. Like, pe- people aren't always like, it's like, yeah, we sucked, but then we became good people.
Yeah. High
So
school
here-
isn't your peak.
Exactly.
Oh man, that would be awful.
Yeah, it's like if high school is your peak, you have problems.
Yeah.
I'm just like, please grow past high school.
Yes. Do.
And so Harry's like, oh, okay. So it's like, in a way, like it's like he doesn't like that his father did that, but he has like a new respect for them because he sees them as like actual people instead of these, beings on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And so then flash forward, they're in class, and all of a sudden they hear like some banging, and they're like, what the heck is that? And it turns out that a girl, one of Cho's friends, snitched because she's got like the traitor written. It's like written in like boils on her head.
Oh, okay.
And she told them what happened. But it turns out that she didn't do it willingly. They fed her Veritaserum.
Oh, okay.
And Cho tries to defend her, and Harry's like, I don't care. Like she's still told.
Yeah.
Like it's like she let herself get caught, like in the first place. Like, as far as I remember, she was given that potion. As far as I remember.
Or it might have been the righty thing where it like writes on your arm.
Yeah. And so yeah, that's the other thing is like Professor Umbridge, she has this form of punishment. She has these cursed quills where whenever you write something, it like it forms it on your hand.
Yeah, it's
And-
like etching it.
Yeah, it etches it
painfully
into your hand, so that way it leaves a scar.
Mhm.
And like she doesn't only don't just do it to Harry, she does it to like first years all the way up. Like no one
Yeah,
is out from
Because
free from her.
Dumbledore's gone by this point.
Yeah, Dumbledore, like she basically is like Dumbledore's unfit to teach. He's conspiring with these people to overthrow the ministry.
Yeah.
And Fudge is like, I'm gonna arrest you. I'm gonna get you. And Dumbledore's like, peace. And he like evaporates.
Yeah, and they call themselves Dumbledore's army.
Yeah, they
like
call
Harry-
themselves Dumbledore's army. And so yeah, that's the thing is like so yeah, it lines up with this because so this girl, she like hands over the document with everyone's name on it. So they know who everyone's in the Dumbledore's army. And so Umbridge gives it to Fudge.
Mhm.
And so then so it's like after this confrontation where she quote betrays them, they go to confront Dumbledore. They bring Harry with them, and he's like, no sir, no, like you know what I'm saying, it was our idea, like we named it this. Dumbledore had nothing to do with it. And Dumbledore's like, Harry, don't lie for me. He's like, what? And he's like, no, he's like, of course I instructed them to create this army, my name's on it, like duh.
Yeah.
And Fudge is like, so you are conspiring against me? And Dumbledore's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, and then he's like, Krakatoa, and then he
Woo-hoo!
just
And Harry's like, oh, what a marvelous display. I'm very impressed. And so then they're like, well, effective immediately, Professor Umbridge will now be the new headmistress of Hogwarts. And so she immediately is like starting to go after teachers she didn't like. For example,
Did you
like,
give me dick?
did you get my text? So she goes after Professor Trelawney, the divination professor, because she had like said like, oh, like you like something bad's gonna happen to you in your future. And Professor Umbridge did not like that. So she immediately is like, oh, Professor Trelawney, you're fired. Get out of here. And she's like, no, like, what am I gonna do? And so Professor McGonagall's like, no, like, just come stay with me. Like, you're not leaving. Screw you, Umbridge. We hate you. And so then one day, comes time for Harry to have the talk with Umbridge about, or to me, talk with Professor McGonagall because she's the head of house about what he wants to do for his career.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know. And she's like, well, what about being an Auror? He's like, what? And she's like, I think you'd make a great Auror. Like your grades are always super high in the levels. Like she's like, the only thing you need to work on is your potions. And he's like, "Ugh, gross potions. She's like, but other than that, like you're great at defense against the dark arts. You would make this. And Umbridge is like, I don't think so. And Professor McGonagall's like, watch yourself. This is my office. And every time she would go, ahem, ahem, to make a comment. And eventually Professor McGonagall's like, do you need a cough drop? Because you keep interrupting me. And then Professor Umbridge is basically like, she's like, Harry Potter will never, like, the Ministry will never allow him to be an Auror. And Professor McGonagall's like, I will see that this boy, Harry, I will see that you become an Auror if it is the last thing I do. Harry's like, oh, I got a friend. And so then, she's like, look, these are the classes you're gonna take next year. Just work on your potions. You'll make a great Auror. He's like, okay, cool, thanks. I guess I'll become an Auror then.
So what do they do?
They are basically like magical law enforcement.
Okay, gotcha.
And so
Harry Potter, chief of police.
I mean, actually, yes, eventually, yes. Dun, dun. And so he then flash forward a little bit, and Harry has this vision of Sirius getting attacked. And it's in this room that he's like, it's the room he keeps dreaming about. He's like, we got to go there. And he's like, and he's talking about it with some of his friends, and they're like, oh, that sounds like the Hall of Mysteries at the room in the Ministry of Magic. And so they're like, all right, well, I guess it's time to break into the Ministry and go save Sirius. Woo! And so it's Harry, Ron, Hermione, Luna, Ginny, Neville. Because Fred and George decided to peace out. They were like, we don't want to finish school. Because, and again, so another fun thing is that Peeves, the ghost, or excuse me, the poltergeist, he never takes orders from anybody.
Yeah.
But on their last day, like they set off all these like little like, they made these little like biomes. We're backtracking for a second. He made these like biomes. And so like there was like all these little like swamps and like tropical forest and like desert like that popped like all over the school. they left their mark. And it's like as they were cleaning it up, there was like one little spot that Professor Flitwick like cornered off and like left like preserved because he was like, it's like the most impressive like magic I've seen, like a charms magic I've ever seen.
That's cool.
So he like leaves a little part of it. But as they're leaving, they're like, all right, Peeves, like, you know, let her rip, you know, undo all these chandeliers and do this. And it's the only time Peeves ever takes orders from someone. But it's because like they were basically equals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're all these like troublemakers. And they're like, by the way, we're opening up a new shop in Diagon Alley called Weasley's Wizard Wheezies. Come check us out. And everyone's like, woo! And then Harry has the vision, and then they're like, okay, we gotta go save Sirius. So they're like, well, we can't use the brooms because all like Umbridge canceled Quidditch, everything's locked up, we're not gonna be able to break in. And they're like, ooh, I know what we can do. We can use the like flu powder network. And they're like, well, the only one that's still active because she set off all the other ones is in her office. We'll have to like break into her office. So they break into her office and they're about to go into the flu network. And then all of a sudden she pops in and she's like, you thought
you about to get Mama's little love handle.
Mama's little love. And so she's like, you know, I know you know where Dumbledore is. Tell me where he is. And he's like, I don't know where he is. She's like, don't lie to me, boy. I know you're helping Potter. I know you're helping Dumbledore. I got caught up in the moment.
It's okay.
But
do you love them enough to
kill them? I do, Mama. I do. People who don't understand that are like, what are they talking about? And so then all of a sudden, like, Hermione's like, "Wait, okay, fine. Dumbledore, yes, you're right. He's got the secret weapon. I'll show you where the secret weapon is." And Harry's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh, okay." Wink. And she's like, "Don't say it out loud."
Bro.
Bro. Okay, bros, do not say wink out loud. Got it. um, and so then they take
Umbridge.
yeah, they take Umbridge out to the forest and they take her to Grop. And so then she's like, you gross giant, because she's like racist and
Yeah.
bloodist and whatever. And then the centaurs pop up because the centaurs have been like really restless. And they do take her away.
Yes.
Not to marry them or anything. They just take her away because she's like, half breeds, gross, get out of here. And they're like, we don't like you. So they take her. Eventually she breaks free, but that's not important. We don't care how she does that.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, thank you, Grop. And so they go back and they're like, oh man, like Ron and all the rest of you, how'd you get away from like Malfoy and the gang? And they're like, oh, we gave them some of Fred and George's treats that make you like throw up. And they're like, oh, smart. And so then they're like, well, how on earth are we going to get to the Ministry now? And Luna's like, oh, let's take the Thestrals. But only Harry and Luna can see the Thestrals, and so they're having to like help everyone else get onto them.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, this is weird because we can't see anything. So like they're basically like floating.
Yeah.
It feels like to them they're floating.
But soon enough they'll be able to see them.
So so they get to the Ministry and they're like, they get to the Hall of Mysteries.
Mhm.
And they're like, there's all these weird things. There's like this.
It's very mysterious.
It is. There's like this tank of brains with tentacles, with like these weird tendrils. And Ron's like, ugh, gross. I'd hate for anyone to get trapped in that thing. And then they see this cabinet that's filled with all of the time turners. All the time turners in the world. And Hermione's like, been there, done that. And then they finally reach this room. And it's called like the Hall of Prophecies. And they go in there and they're looking because Harry, he saw one. He's looking. He's like, I found it. And they pick it up. And it says, it's like, the prophecy goes something like, as far as I can remember, it says, a boy born near the end of the summer, whose parents suffer, and will be marked as an equal by this upcoming power. And like this upcoming power will see this boy, mark him as his equal, and then they will be bound together. And neither can live while the other survives. That's the famous thing that everyone knows from it.
Yeah.
And Harry's like, so I was cool. That's great. And then all of a sudden, bing, bada boom, Lucius Malfoy shows up and he goes, sup, boy? And Harry's like,
He's like,
hello, Potter. Harry's like, I don't like you. What do you want?
you look suspiciously like Cedric.
That's weird. And fudge? And then he's like, give me the prophecy, because he's like, wait, we're serious. And he's like, you stupid boy, Voldemort knew about your connection and he like falsified his vision so that way you would come and get it, because he couldn't get it because the prophecy is yours and only the person who it belongs to can take it.
So like if they destroyed the prophecy, would it stop, or like what is
no it's just he wants it to, because he only ever heard, we will get to that in a second.
Okay.
We'll explain it in a second. So he's like, wait, what? I don't understand. And Lucius Malfoy's like, you're so stupid. You're so stupid,
bro.
And here's like, and Ron's like, giving him approval in the background, like, you got it, man. You're on the right track. And so then he's like, spills the beans. He's like, he's taking control of the Dementors. He's, doing this, he's doing that, and because we want that prophecy, give it to us. And Harry's like, well, if you want it, come and get it. And so like they run away, and then Ginny, as they've seen before, she's really good with the spell Bombardo, which basically creates an explosion. She's like really good at it. And so she like creates this explosion, and then all of a sudden like panic ensues, and they're like, oh man, the whole place is crashing down around us. We need to go. And so they leave the hall of they all get like separated because they're all getting chased by all these different Death Eaters, and Ron ends up in the brain tentacle tank, like wrapped up, and he's like in this weird trance, and like, we gotta get him out of there. And so they get Ron out, they rip him out, and he's like, I feel weird. And then the cabinet full of all the time turners gets destroyed. So there's no more time turners. Ever.
There is.
There's not.
That cursed child thing.
It's not canon.
It is just like 7 foot tall Jenny Weasley.
Which means it's not.
Uh,
So so then eventually they finally get cornered and they're in this room where there's this like curtain.
Mhm,
Like as far as I can remember, it's like an actual like physical curtain.
mhm.
It's like this red curtain with like gold trim on it. And they're like, stay away from that. And he's like, why? It's just a curtain. They're like, stay away from the curtain. He's like, okay.
Wizard of Oz behind him.
And so then also so Lucius Malfoy, he's like, boy, give me that prophecy. And then all of a sudden, the Order of the Phoenix shows up. And they're like
Yeah,
fighting. And Sirius and Harry, they're fighting alongside each other. And woohoo, everyone's having a good time.
it's so cinematic.
It really is. Like you can like almost imagine, I can almost picture it's like Daniel Radcliffe and Gary Oldman. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. I
It
can.
looks like that.
Yeah, and it's like the camera's like doing
It's
this
like
parallax
yeah,
thing.
this and like we're seeing all the different people fight and we're seeing like
Yeah,
cool like visual effects. It would be so great as a movie.
yeah. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day, I don't know. But so then all of a sudden Bellatrix, who is Sirius Black's cousin,
Mhm,
uh she cuz so she kills him.
mhm.
She hits him with the curse and he's like, "Oh." And then he falls behind the curtain and Harry's waiting for him to come back out. But he never comes back out.
Mhm.
And he goes to like follow him behind the curtain, but then like he gets stopped.
Yeah.
Really Groomsman stops, and then he like chases down Bellatrix, um, and she's like freaking out. She's like, "Aha, I got him!" And she's like, "Oh, look, here's Harry Potter. I got him. Hi, Harry Potter, you're here with me." And then uh, Harry's like, he's like on the verge. He's like, "I'm gonna kill her. I'm actually going to kill her."
Yeah.
And he pins her down. He uses the Cruciatus curse on her. He's there. Like he's about to do it, and then all of a sudden Voldemort shows up and he's like, "Ooh, snap back to reality." Nope. um and then they like
He has like holds his wand all like.
Ooh, hello. Hello, Mr. Potter. And so then uh they have this like battle of the minds,
Mhm.
basically, where he's like, "I'm stronger than you," and Harry's like, "No, what? No. No, you are not stronger than me." And then he like so he basically pushes Voldemort out of his mind.
You've been bested by a 15-year-old.
I got killed by a 2-year-old. And so then whenever Voldemort leaves his mind, who's there but a bunch of these ministry officials, including Fudge, and he sees Voldemort there in person and he's like,
Mm,
"Oh crap, he is back."
yeah.
Because it's the one thing you don't want to admit. But
Yeah.
it's one of those two like a bunch of witnesses were there. Um
What is it? Obliviate.
yeah. Actually, right before he shows up, Dumbledore is there, and uh, he and Voldemort duel a little
Yeah,
bit,
yeah.
and then
And all the glass shatters.
yeah, all this stuff happens, and then they have the Battle of the Wits, and then Fudge sees him, and then they're like, okay, peace, and then they go back to school, and there's this scene in the book, which
Mhm,
I wish they put in so bad, where they're in Dumbledore's office,
mhm.
and it is the first time Dumbledore has directly spoken to slash acknowledged Harry
The whole book.
the whole book. And so he's sitting and he's like they're sitting there and Harry's like, I don't understand this prophecy. Like he just feels weird because he's like, I want to talk to you, but at the same time I'm like mad at you. And
Yeah.
he's like, I don't get this prophecy because like the broke. So does that mean it's over? And he's like, no, it's just a recording of it. And he's like, I was there when it like first happened. He's like, what? And
Mm,
he's like, I was interviewing people for a new divination professor. And it was Professor Trelawney. And in the middle of her interview, she had an episode and she made that prophecy. And who was listening but Snape? Snape overheard it. He stumbled
mm,
in and then he left and told Voldemort about the prophecy.
mm.
And he goes, so that's why they killed him. And he's like, no, Harry, it didn't have to be you. He's like, what? And he goes, the other person who fits that description is Neville. You guys were both born at the end of July. Both of your parents suffered.
Oh.
And like, and Harry's like, you're telling me it didn't have to be me? And he goes, he's like, so the prophecy doesn't mean me, it means Neville. He's like, well, no, it means you now. He goes, well, why? And he goes, because Voldemort saw you.
Personally.
He saw you because he's like, Neville is a pureblood, but you're a half-blood. Voldemort's also a half-blood. He saw you as his equal. So then the prophecy became about you.
Mm,
And Harry, he's like, you knew the, and then in the book, what it is, it's like 2 full pages of like all caps of Harry just losing it. Because he's like, this whole time, like, you knew all this stuff. You knew the pain I was going through, and you did nothing. You didn't talk to me. You didn't let my friends talk to me all summer. Like, what is wrong with you? And then he sees like a plate or this like dish, and he
Yeah.
grabs it and smashes it. And Dumbledore, like, he doesn't. Dumbledore just sits there. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't do anything. And Harry's like, why isn't he getting mad? And he just breaks like everything in his office. He's like getting stuff, slamming it on the ground. He's like tossing books, tossing tables, and just wrecking the place. And he's like waiting for a reaction from Dumbledore because he wants some reaction.
Yeah.
And Dumbledore just calmly, he's like, "Go ahead and break them. Like these things mean nothing to me. Like if you need to do this, do this. I understand."
Yeah.
And Harry's like, why aren't you getting angry?" And he's like, "Because you have every right to react the way you're reacting. Like I thought what I was doing was best, but I was wrong, and I'm sorry. But that's not gonna happen from now on. From now on, I'm gonna tell you everything I know, and like there's no more secrets."
Mm.
And Harry, he's starting to calm
Well, there
down.
might be one.
Well, it was just one small little detail. And so Harry's starting to calm down. He goes, so like, he's like, "Is there any way?" And he's like, "No, Harry, it's about you. He marked you as his equal. It's about you." He's like, "But it's okay. Like, you're strong. You are so much stronger than you realize." And Harry's like, "Okay, this sucks." He's like, "Well, don't worry. Like, next year, private, like, you and me, we're going to work one on one and we're going to take him down. We are going to stop him." And so then, the the book ends with uh Harry like, "Okay, well, you know what? This year wasn't great, but next year it'll be better." And so he goes back home.
Twin sunsets. He's standing on a
Exactly. At
ridge.
twin sunsets, he's like about to get on the train, puts like like he's like standing on the ground, but there's like a ledge. He puts one foot up on the ledge, looks
No.
off into the twin sunset. And that's Order of the Phoenix, as far as I can remember.
Well, there you go, everybody. Order of the Bros in the books. If you enjoy the episode, let us know by hitting the like button, subscribing, all that good stuff. If you're listening to podcast side of things, make sure you go and rate it. It helps us out a ton on getting discoverability and everything. And share.
Mhm.
There's a lot of work that goes into this show. So do that.
Yeah.
And be awesome. So this has been Zach.
And Allie.
Y'all have an awesome week.